Welcome to Second Wind with Joyce Buford, a program for and about women. Joyce Buford is a certified coach who has a passion for helping women who need a second wind. Joyce is the creator of Uncover Your Hidden Genius, a program that will help you live a life of greater purpose, fulfillment, and ease. As a certified coach, she studied directly with her mentor, Jack Canfield, author of the Chicken Soup book series, where she served as an assistant to his training program. Through her study with many prestigious coaches and mentors, she has created a powerful program that has positively impacted hundreds of people. On today's program, Joyce and her guest will help you learn how to get your second wind. Now here's our host, Joyce Buford.
Good morning. I am so excited about the day today. It's a interesting day in Tyler, Texas for sure, and I hope wherever you are. I want you to sit back and get a cup of coffee or whatever you might need while you are going to listen to a fascinating show today with a fascinating lady. Her name is Monica Bloom. Now, Monica is an enthusiastic Ayurvedic coach, author, and speaker. Now, if you don't know what Ayurvedic is, she's going to share that with us, so hold on. Now, after living at the intersection of a stressful corporate job, driving 3 hours daily to work, motherhood, she was experiencing motherhood, and a side hustle, Monica became the expert at tucking Ayurveda neatly into a busy modern life. During her craziness, as she refers to it, she used her Ayurvedic know-how to renew her health, clear her mind, and exude joy each day. And because of that, her sweet spot is teaching busy go-getters how to enrich their mind, body, and spirit so they can enjoy achieving their goals and love their life. Monica is an author, as I said, and she did author her book, Your Elements. Now, a little personal side here, she has a knack for making a very complex topic simple so that anyone can benefit and grow. She lives in a happy cottage among the trees in San Francisco Bay Area with her husband, daughter, and four-legged work buddy, Rio. Monica, I just love that interview. I just love it. It's so fun. It's so fun.
It's so good to be here, Joyce. Thank you so much.
Oh, I just love this. So, in the beginning of reading about how stressed you were with it, I can't imagine a 3-hour commute. I really can't. I live in kind of a quieter part of the world, and 3 hours just send me over the edge.
It's a little bonkers. It's a little bonkers, but I've always lived, for the past 15 or 16 years, I've lived in San Francisco or Los Angeles, and I was pretty lucky in both of those places. When I lived in the city of San Francisco, I was pretty lucky, to get places fairly quickly with public transportation and all that, but you also just have a bunch of patience in getting from place to place. In Los Angeles, I was very lucky to live close to work, but then when we moved back up to the Bay Area, we were no longer in the city, and it took a good hour, 20 minutes to get to work. Now, it wasn't all just sitting. It was a little more manic than that. It was like, get the child to daycare in Berkeley. The daycare opened up at 8 o'clock. The bus picked up at 8:02, 3 blocks down the road. So I trained her to push me out the door. I'm like, okay, push mama out the door to so she wasn't hugging and stuff. And then I would sprint down the street. I'd catch the bus. Hopefully, if I didn't, I missed it. I had to wait a half an hour for the next one. Or sometimes they were too full and they just blow past you. And then I get to San Francisco half an hour later or 45 minutes later, depending on traffic. And then there was a 20-minute walk. So it was this broken up commute, which actually I didn't mind the walking, right? Like, who cares?
Right.
Like, you got 40 minutes of walking in a day. That's pretty great. But over time, I was like, I'm spending all my time on a commute. And I became very resentful in a way of like having to do all that. And like, I became angry. I thought my time was wasted. I couldn't see my kid. As I was like, if I could translate this into like 3 hours of doing anything else, that would be great. And so that was, I think that in itself, on top of all the other things I was doing. So then I was managing a team of 8 for a startup division of the company I was working for, which was fun and crazy. And then you're responsible for everybody else, So it was just a lot of things. I feel like there was something else going on at the time too. I don't remember, but there was a lot of things that was stacked. And in being a new mom, I had a toddler. She was less than 2 at the time.
My goodness.
And so it was just, by the time I got home, I had more work to do.
Yeah.
Because with the commute time, you're not able to work. And so I would work until very late, and I was just fried. Like, I just booked my days up, and I was fried. And get this, at the same time, I already knew Ayurveda. I already had been doing and teaching Ayurveda for about 5 or 6 years, and I completely lost all my good stuff that I had been practicing. And the one thing that changed me is I said to myself, girl, you got to get it together. Like, what's your problem? Like, why are you're angry all the time? Like, you're stressed out. You're trying to do everything for everybody. You're not sleeping properly. You're working all the time. There's no self-care. There's no time for anything. So I was like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? How do I fix my mind? And I was like, the fastest way to change my mind is to move my body. Yes. And I went, right. Okay. And so I had 2 dogs also. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to take the one dog that likes to run for a 10-minute run in the morning. We're going to get up in the dark. Like Ayurveda says, get up before the sun, because the energy of movement, we can get into this as we talk about Ayurveda a little bit more. But there's an energy that happens right before the sun rises when it's dark outside. And it's called Vata, and it's the energy of movement. And when you rise in the energy of movement, it carries you throughout the day. Whereas if we rise, so when we rise after the sun comes up, we feel a little sluggish, because that's slower time. It's a different energy at that time, and we can feel sluggish start to the day. So my trick was, all right, you got to get up in the dark. I was doing that anyways. And I was like, just go for a 10-minute run. And so I took the dog, and we went for a 10-minute run. And I kid you not, that day, I was happy. I was like, okay, I can still do all this stuff. I was happy. And then I figured out, like, then I was like, okay, well, guess what? What else can make me happy? Meditation makes me happy. Okay, I'm going to do meditation on the bus. And so I did. So I'd get on the bus, and I'd do my meditation. So I'd do my 10-minute run, then did my meditation on the bus. Then I was like, what else can I do? What else can I do to make myself happy? Ooh, I can pay daycare to open 10 minutes early so I don't have to sprint and run with a stressful morning right off the bat. So I did that. I was like, can you guys open 10 minutes early? I'll pay you. They're like, sure. So I got space there.
That is so thinking out of the box. I really applaud you for that.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it was like survival.
Never think of doing that.
Yeah, you got to use all your tools.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Right there, whoever's listening, that's your biggest tip for the day. Now, we're going to tell you a lot more, because she's going to explain Ayurveda to us and help us understand, what is that strange word that we hear? Where did originate from? So anyway, I'm really anxious about that. So
all right, so let's talk about Ayurveda. What is it? Where does it come from? It's a weird-looking word. It is Sanskrit. It comes from India about 5,000 years ago or so, maybe 6, maybe 3. We're not sure. But it's old, and it kind of stems from around the time of Chinese medicine as well. So there were all these regions that were doing sort of similar things around the same time. And what Ayurveda is it's essentially the science. It literally translates to the science or knowledge of life, which sounds big and huge. But the purpose of Ayurveda is to teach us how to have longevity. And the reason why we want longevity is so that we can fulfill our purpose on this planet. And so that might sound a little hippy-dippy, but let me get to this. So Ayurveda is all about, it can both teach us how to build a lifestyle to prevent disease and imbalance, because 90% of disease or imbalance can be cured and prevented with diet and lifestyle alone. So I first, right? And so the power is like in our own hands, as long as we know the rules around Ayurveda. And most importantly, this is where it gets cool. Ayurveda says we're all completely unique individuals. Just because 3 people have a headache, the problem, the cause and the cure for each one of those headaches is going to be different for every single one of those people. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we need to learn and understand who we are as unique individuals, and then build our diet and lifestyle around that way, because one size does not fit. Oh, we're completely unique. Completely and totally unique. And so, and so that's kind of the overview of what Ayurveda is, and it goes wide and it goes deep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when you get somebody that comes in and they're complaining about being exhausted, they can't get through the day, they're stressed over the top, which most of us are dealing with stress. I mean, I just don't believe there's a person on the earth that doesn't have some stress put on them. And it's how we handle it. Most of us don't know how to handle it. And so how do you start with a person that just walks in totally exhausted? You can tell by their skin, they're not doing something right. You know, it's lost its glow, it's wrinkly or really stressed. So how do you start?
Yeah, so what is one simple thing where you can begin using Ayurveda? So it's a great question. And Ayurveda likes to say it depends, because it depends on the person, right? So each person's going to need something a little different, because we live our lives totally different, and we're unique, different people. But there are some very simple things that anybody can do to start bringing in sort of an Ayurvedic way of shaping your schedule and increasing your energy. And so one of those first things, I'll tell you the screw up. How about that, Joyce? Can I tell you where I see most of us, especially Americans, screw up? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Here's number one. The number one screw up is that we breeze through lunch. We don't have it. We skip it. We have a salad. We have something small. I know that sounds weird, but let me tell you what happened. So we have a digestive fire that burns behind our belly that's responsible for digesting all of our food. We get most of the reason why we get sick is because of a malfunctioning digestive fire. Also, fire is responsible for the vigor, the vitality, the transformation, that light, that fire that we bring to every day. Okay, so if the fire's not going well, we're not digesting our food well, and that can cause all kinds of problems. Constipation, can cause bloating, it can cause the opposite, where you're pooping the food out real fast, like diarrhea, right? So it can cause all these digestive problems, but also the mind, body, spirit are all connected, so it affects the mind as well. So we need to digest our food properly. And so because of this, digestive fire burning, here comes in principle number one in Ayurveda is like increases like. So the sun during our breakfast time is low on the horizon, right? And the sun is essentially a big fire.
Yes.
And when it rises and gets stronger around noon, we're going to have a nice big burning fire in the sky. The sun is hot at that time. Therefore, the fire behind our belly, that the Agni, rises ready too. And it says, hey, I'm ready for food. I can handle a bulk of food. That is when we should be eating our biggest meal of the day. Is during lunch. And most people breeze through it or skip it, or they're like, don't eat it. And what happens is they eat a big dinner. Okay, so if we're going by this concept of fire, one of the great elements in Ayurveda, the sun, if you don't give it anything at noon, fire goes, what the heck, I don't have anything to burn. And the fire gets smaller. And then by the time dinner comes around, sun is setting, isn't it? The sun is setting.
Yeah.
Our digestive fire is like, well, I'm done for the day. I'm going to start to set too. And so our digestive gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And what do? We're like, I'm hungry. I didn't eat all day. And we eat this huge big meal without a proper digestive fire to digest the food. And then we're maybe like we're overstuffed, we eat too much, and we can experience weight gain because of that. Because we go to sleep without our food being properly digested, then it hangs around, doesn't get digested well. We wake up the next morning, maybe we have a breakfast or maybe we don't, whatever, but the old food is still sitting around because we actually didn't eat it.
Yeah.
Or we didn't digest it properly.
Yeah.
So that's the number one thing I see. If you're not already eating a nice lunch and you're skipping through it because we're busy, change it. See how you can get in a much bigger lunch in quantity, and then for dinner, eat like half the amount of food.
Oh.
And your energy will change.
Does Ayurveda refer to the type of food or just in general food?
It's a good question. So in Ayurveda, there's different foods for different folks.
So,
yeah. Go ahead. Ask the question. What were you going to say?
No, I mean, I went, that makes sense. I mean, now everybody is reaching out for the keto diet, which some people do well with, some people don't do well with. So,
can I tell you why? I'm going to tell you why. So we'll get back to food, but I'm going to explain some things first, because Ayurveda, you got to learn the stuff a little bit, and then you can apply it. So in Ayurveda, there are what's called 3 doshas, okay? And the doshas are 3 energies that are made of the 5 elements. Now, if your listeners do not have pen and paper, they might want to grab some. And if not, they can come back and listen again, because this is where real teaching starts to happen. Okay, so the 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, and earth. These 3 doshas are made of the 5 elements. So the first dosha is Vata dosha, and it's made of space and air. Okay, very light. These people with Vata dosha tend to be lightweight, light-boned. They move fast. They talk fast. They're creative. They're storytellers. They tend to have a small frame, thin skin. They are multitask like crazy and usually don't finish things. Like, they're very witty because they're made of space and air, right? And then the second, and Vata is the energy of movement. It is in our bodies. It moves things from place to place. It's responsible for circulation. It's responsible for our heart beating. Vata energy is involved in everything in our body all the time. So our body is constantly just changing and changing and changing every second, every millisecond. So the next dosha is Pitta Dosha. And Pitta is made of fire and water. Okay? So Pitta people have a little bit more substance to their structure. They're going to be more muscular. They're going to have sharper features, like maybe a sharper nose or sharper jaw. They've got like lighter colored skin. They will easily burn in the sun because they're made of the fire element. So light increases light. They might get sunburned easily. They might get heartburn easily. They tend to be organizational, analytical. They got their opinions. They're more like a leader. They're like, we're going to slice and dice this and solve this problem. They are definitely more of the fiery personality. Okay? Pitta dosha. The third one is Kapha dosha. Is the energy of lubrication and structure. And Kapha Dosha is made of water and earth. So now we've gone all the way from very light and airy space and air, a little bit more dense to fire and water. And now we're over in water and earth, which is heavy, dense, immobile. So Kapha people are they have the most sturdy structure. They have more rounded features. They have the personality of the hostess with the mostest. They're all love and sunshine. They're happy-go-lucky. How can I serve you? How can I support you? Do you want some food? Let's hug. Like, they are just they're the caretakers, okay?
Yeah.
So that's those people. So now let's think about the concept. So first of all, we all have all three doshas in us because they manifest in actually certain parts of our body and they make the body work. Okay? So just know that for simple terms. We have all three doshas in us, but one or two of them are going to be most prominent in ourselves, which is cool. This is where Ayurveda gets like really individualized. Okay. So let's say we're remembering that concept of like increases like. So that's no bueno. We don't want more like. We want to counterbalance. So when we talk about food, a Vata person made of space and air, they're very light, they're very cold, they're very dry, they're windy, they move about. They need food that is like grounding, like comfort food. They need to balance that space and air with nice, warm, heavy food. Like these are the mac and cheese people because they don't easily gain weight anyway. So who cares? They can eat their mac and cheese and feel so satisfied. Unfortunately, a lot of Vata type people are choosing things like salad.
Yes.
Which is too much space and air, which is why they get bloated tummies and constipation and distension, and they get cramps and they don't feel so good in the gut sometimes because they're eating too much space and air, too many light foods. They need to eat heavier foods.
Okay.
Pitta dosha. Yeah. Do you have a question?
No, you're getting.
It's a
this
lot.
Is not me. I just want to share that with you.
That's fine.
I am
Okay,
not
good.
Veda.
No, I think that you're a combination of Pitta with Kapha, but let's see.
You got it.
Yeah, I think so. When you move on to Pitta dosha, these are the people that are made of fire and water. And so what is fire? Fire is hot. So these people are going to, they really have to watch the spice in their food and the acidity in their food because they will feel things like heartburn or they will get like some acid reflux or they'll get something like that that's very heating. They might notice if you take a Pitta person, let's say I come over to your house, Joyce, and it's 90 degrees in Texas in the summer, and we're like, hey, let's go sit out in the sun, which is heating. It's 90 degrees, which is heating. And you're like, let's have margaritas and chips and salsa. And so we have our margaritas, alcohol's heating, lime's heating, salt's heating. We put a hot salsa on the table. We have some chips. And my cheerful Joyce is sitting there. We're enjoying our thing. And all of a sudden she starts to get red and blotchy on the chest and maybe on her neck and on her face. And I'm like, you're looking a little red. And she's like, yeah. And she's kind of struggling to be happy. And she's getting cranky. And she's like, I'm feeling the heartburn. And your mood gets soured too because you start to get too hot. And it's not, your body is 100% telling you this is not the right thing. So let's take Joyce out. We're going to go sit in the shade in the 90 degrees.
Definitely.
We're going to have cucumber water. Cucumber's cooling. We're going to have mango salsa, not hot salsa. Mangoes are cooling. We're going to have those chips, and all of a sudden my friend Joyce is just fine. This is fine. Yeah. No problem. So Pitta people need to have more cooling foods. Cooling foods are like veggies, fruit, fresh. These are the people that can maybe tolerate a salad, although Ayurveda, there's a reason Ayurveda says not too many raw foods because it's hard on our digestive fire. Can be, depending on the person. Pittas have strong digestive fire. They're the only dosha that has the fire element in them. And so because of that, they just need to keep their foods, they're going to burn through their food, first of all. They're going to be like always hungry. They can always eat. Not that they should, but they're like, yeah, I can eat. And so they'll be happy
That's
to eat.
me. I can eat.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I can eat. They just have to be careful that they're not eating too much in quantity because that fire is going to be calling for food. They have to regulate their Agni. But the foods that are best for pittas are like fruits, veggies, grains. They can do like fish, chicken, things like that. A vata can have all of those things too. Those are great. But the vatas should really be mindful that they're not just eating all vegetables. It's going to be too light for them. They're not going to feel good. So let's move on over to Kapha. Okay. So Kapha Dosha, we've got earth and water. They're heavy. They're slow. And so when you have a person that is built of these heavier energies, they need lighter food. So for Kapha type people, this is where vegetarianism is great. This is where veganism is great for these types of people because A, they don't need a lot of food. They have a lot of structure. They're the energy of lubrication and structure. They can get away with eating less, maybe 1-2 meals a day. And right. And what nobody says with these keto diets and with the Whole30 and all the things, yes, they will work for some people, but they're not going to work for all people because we're all totally different.
Yeah.
And so when we're choosing our foods, we need to listen to what our body's calling for and stop doing what we think we should do. I'm going to put a big asterisk behind that because eating what we want, what our body's telling us, we also have to be mindful that it's not craving crap like Kit Kats and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a difference between making good choices. Yeah, good choices with your food and choosing stuff you already know. Like I don't need to tell you, Kit Kats for lunch, not a good idea. Okay, you know. But when we really listen to our bodies, like I want you and your listeners that are with us today, I want you to start thinking about what foods make you feel good. What kind of foods do you eat that make you feel really good? Because whether you know Ayurveda, whether you know your dosha, whether you know squat about any of this stuff, you know a lot about yourself.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to stop there. Don't want you to say another word because I don't want to have to cut it off. I want everybody to be able to hear every single word you're saying because I'm learning a lot here. So I have questions because I'm a little of this and a little of that. But when we come back, I'll say those questions, ask those questions. We'll be back shortly.
Transformational coach, motivational speaker, and author Joyce Buford returns after this short break.
Would you like to know how to bring more ease to all the decisions you need to make in life? Knowing your core values is the first step in Joyce's free live masterclass. You'll discover your top 5 core values in as little as 45 minutes. Join her now at freegiftfromjoyce.com. Close your eyes and imagine living your life without limits. Where would you go? Who would you meet? What would you do? During an Uncover Your Hidden Genius session, you will discover what's keeping you from living your life with purpose, passion, and fulfillment of your potential. You'll get a clear vision of the steps you need to take to uncover your hidden genius so that you can live a life without limits. Sessions can be done over the phone, Skype, or in person. Find out more at www.joycebufordempowers.com or by calling 903-287-0747.
Welcome back to this segment of Second Wind. Joyce Buford, the creator of Uncover Your Hidden Genius, continues in this segment to share insight that will help you live a life of greater purpose, fulfillment, and ease. Now here's our host, author and coach, Joyce Buford.
Wow. That's all I can say is wow. This has been so interesting knowing the 3 doshas, which are Vata, Pitta, and Casa. Am I saying that correctly? You know, I am close to Mexico, and we say Casa, C-A-S-A. But I have a feeling it's not C-A-S-A. What is it?
No, it's K-A-P-H-A. Kapha.
Oh, yes, that's so different from what I was saying. Sorry about that. But
no
anyway,
worries.
One of the questions that you divided them into these four doshas, dosha. I see myself a little bit in the Pitta, as you had correctly said, and a little bit in the Kapha.
Yes.
I'm not pure in either one. I have issues with both of them. But, I'm eating chips and salsa and guacamole. I just got back from Mexico, a beautiful part of Mexico that I'd never been to before. It's called the, what's it called? Riviera, the Mayan Riviera. So it was a totally different part from where Texas is exposed. You know, we normally go down to Texas and beyond, where they're having so many difficulties right now. And so anyway, but all we did was eat guacamole and chips. And so I'm kind of going, well, how did that affect me? I love hot food, so I'm wondering how that affects me. And but I do definitely have the light skin, and I am the nurturer. I'm the caretaker, so that's the Kapha. So how do you blend two different?
That's right. It's the biggest question I get. They say, my students and readers go, I'm two. Which one do I balance? Because they contradict each other.
Yes, they do.
And the one thing that we can think about is, I'll just throw this other nugget into the mix. The doshas also rule the season. So in the summer, it's going to be more pitta because it's hot.
Yes.
Okay, that would be a time where you eat more, you really focus on those pitta balancing foods, the cool foods, the fruits, the salads and all of that, and lay off the spices. In the winter, you can get away with a little more spice, the winter and the spring, because it's cold. And so your Kapha side will need some of those spices. And I think the best thing that I can say, especially if you're a brand new beginner and Ayurveda is totally new, but you want to do something good for yourself, is to start to pay attention. Okay, once you get a clue on your doshas, even if it's not perfect, change a little bit. So now you're like, I wonder what would happen if I had spicy food less. I'm going to try it for 2 weeks and see how I feel. Because I can't tell you exactly, right? Like, I can't tell you exactly what to have, what to do, unless, we're working one-on-one or something. And even then, it's still a little bit like, you know what? Try this. I think it's going to benefit you, but give it a try for a week or two and see how you feel. Sometimes that's all somebody needs is a week of changing their foods, and they feel a whole lot better. They're like, hot dog. Like, I feel so much better. I'm going to do this all the time. And so for you, I would say in the summertime, stay away from the heating stuff. In the wintertime, you can have a little bit more heating foods, but eat lighter. So like in the springtime is Kapha season, because Kapha is a builder. And so that's when all the buds on the trees and the rain and all the stuff happens. That's when you're going to want to eat lighter, spicier, drier food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not quite so heavy. Yeah.
Yeah. So this leads me to, I'm looking at that, and although you've done a beautiful job explaining it, I still have some questions. So I'm curious to know if your book is a plan for it. Does it hold all of this wisdom that you've shared with us this morning?
It does. It holds a lot of what I've shared and so much more. So if you were to read my book, it's called In Your Element, and you can find it on Amazon. But it's like a roadmap. So it's a little bit of teaching, and then it's a little bit of, here's how to implement into your life. It's kind of, there's like workbook component. So there's a dosha quiz in there, so you could take it and see which dosha or two you might gravitate toward more, and then go into the daily routine and go into the nutrition. There's 3 chapters on nutrition. We go into exercise, mindset, and it balances out, it'll help you balance out the full spectrum of what Ayurveda can actually do for you on a daily basis. Because this is, we're talking about today, Joyce, we're talking about probably 0.18% of what Ayurveda is. Like, we're talking about like 1% maybe of what Ayurveda is. Maybe.
Yeah.
So it's a lot, but the book goes through a lot of it that we can use in our daily life, because it's so big. You got to break it down and just make it doable. That's what my book will teach.
Yeah. Now, this is a question that I come from the woman that diets, okay? I'm a dieter, or I need to be dieting right now. And so can I assume that since this is a balance program, a program of balance, you in mind, body, and spirit, does it also help us once we get ourselves in balance? Do we tend to lose weight? Do we tend to go to our norm? What would be our norm weight?
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's a great question. That's a great question. And yeah, it helps us, what I like to say, achieve our best body or who we are as a person. Because not everybody needs to lose weight. Some people need to gain it. So it really helps people balance out and find where, like, what's ideal for them as a unique person. Like, some people feel heavy. They're like, geez, I just feel heavy. Listen to that. That's probably a hint that your body's telling you, like, hello, we're feeling heavy. Can you do something about this, please? And some people feel exhausted and too light, and like they have no structure, and they're like, I feel windy and like tired all the time, and I don't have any strength. That's a sign that there's a little bit too much depletion. So when we feel heavy, it's called overbuild, a little bit overbuilt in the elements that we're taking. And when we don't have enough, we're depleted. The body's depleting, right? Which is not good. We want to be at what's right for us. Now, some people can gain weight very easily. Those tend to be Kapha people. And some people can't gain weight no matter what the heck they eat. And those are Vata type people. And I know that you and the listeners are already making you have some ideas about who you are and where you fit on this spectrum. But eating in an Ayurvedic way, which is actually, like, don't let that scare you. It's just eating the regular food that you do. Like, we're doing our best with the food that we have and the knowledge that we have of our bodies now. But yes, it will help you reach the optimal place of where your body should be.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Right. Well, as I mature, let's say, and we all grow up and we start deciding, we've been dealing with the weight. It feels like I've dealt with an extra 10 pounds all my life. And but as I mature, I find that I'm feeling the stress in my mind as much as my body. And so, I feel the need for balance. And I look at most of the Texans around here. I don't see many that are too thin. I see way more people that are over 10, maybe even 20 pounds. And they really do need to go into a program of some sort, some support program to help them. But I mean, did you kind of all of a sudden decide I was going to lose weight or tend to weight versus a plan that was a plan for life?
I'll tell you what happened to me. I was a personal trainer and I was a graphic designer, and I was eating salads at lunch. And well, first I was having a giant coffee in the morning. Then I would have a salad at lunch. Then I was like looking for candy at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Then, because I didn't eat much of a lunch. Then I'd go out for happy hour with my friends. This is San Francisco days. happy hour with my friends. Then I'd eat like a huge burrito at like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. which is why I wasn't hungry in the morning.
Actually.
Yeah. So my nutrition was terrible. And what started happening, you brought in the mind. I'm glad you did, because my mind started getting depressed. I started getting lost. I was foggy. I was sad all the time. I was lonely. I was brought down to a very low point, which is where I started looking for things, right? And a long story short, that's how I stumbled on Ayurveda. And my first weekend in Ayurveda school, they talked about having a big lunch. And I was like, well, I never do that. I'm going to start there. And so we had a lunch break, and I went to Whole Foods, and they were like, eat warm food, because I think I'm part Vata. So just so you know, I'm Vata, Pitta, and split, both of them. But then my Vata was high, but I had all kinds of digestive problems. I couldn't poop. I was constantly bloated. Anything I would eat would distend my stomach. I was bloated. I was in pain most of the time. My mind was all over the place, and I talked about 10 times faster than this. So with all that Vata energy, I went to Whole Foods, and I looked at the prepared food section, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to have a warm lunch for once. And so I got mac and cheese, and I got a side of warm vegetables. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and not be at a computer while I eat my lunch. So I took a little table inside of Whole Foods. They have little tables in there. And I sat down. And for the first time, I think, since I was a little kid, when my grandmother used to make me big German lunches, I was like, oh, I've totally been missing food. Oh, I can focus this afternoon. Oh, I actually don't feel bloated today. Oh, I'm actually not super starving out of my head for dinner. That meal completely it changed everything. That little lunch. And from then on, I was committed to like doing a better job with my lunch.
Okay, tell me about this, because I'm thinking about Thanksgiving. And we eat heavy. Matter of fact, we gourd ourselves with the Thanksgiving dinner. And what makes me sleepy in the afternoon? Is it the combination of food, or is it the volume of food?
The Agni has been buried. It's got no strength. You've buried the Agni, our digestive fire, under way too much food, and the body's got no energy left.
Yeah.
So the rest of the body shuts down, because Agni, digestive fire, remember, says, hold up, body. I just got a ton of work to do. You can't think straight, because that tejas, that fire, doesn't get into our mind. It's unable to. So that's why when we feel cloudy in the mind, heavy in the mind, unfocused, lethargic, lazy, all those things in the mind, it's actually coming from a physical place in the body, because we've eaten too much food. And our Agni can't handle it. It can't make its way through it. It's like, it's going to take me days. So the best thing to do for Thanksgiving is like fast the next day, or eat very light, or have light spicy soups, so that the Agni can catch up and get through all of that work. Because if you don't, Agni will take the old foodstuffs and be like, well, this isn't stopping. I'm still getting more work than I can handle. And it starts to turn food into toxic substances, and it puts it into different areas of our bodies, and the doshas take it there. And then the doshas get imbalanced in our tissues, and then we're like, I don't know why I have knee pain. I don't know why I have hip pain. I don't know why I have acid reflux. I don't know, like a bajillion, like name all the diseases we could possibly have. It comes from undigested old food.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Not all the diseases. Yeah, not all of the problems. Some of the problems are genetic, some are environmental, some are, there's a list of like 10 of them. But most of the reason why we get sick, allergies, colds and flus, all this stuff, is because our food has not been digested and used in the tissues properly and expelled as waste products properly. There's a malfunction happening. And so on Thanksgiving, we malfunction the heck out of our digestion for a day. And, whatever. Look, I like cupcakes and wine just like the next person. I just do it in balance. I do the right things like 85 to 90% of the time, and then I can screw off for 10 to 15% of the time, and it's fine. It's not going to hurt me. That's called loving life.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. Did that answer your question? If not, feel free to keep asking me. Like, look, we could be on the phone for like 16 days in a row, Joyce, and we could talk about this forever.
I think we could. Now, I know that, look, the rest of the people like me that may be listening in need to get your book. So to make this clearer, I need it very clear. You've done a beautiful job, but I need it even clearer. And so where do we go to get your book?
Go to Amazon, and it's called In Your Element by Monica Bloom. You can also, if you want to get that book, that's cool. I also have a YouTube channel you can totally binge watch. It's Hey Monica B.
Oh, I love that. I love YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, so go to YouTube, Hey Monica B. I've got a lot of teachings on there and some cheat sheets and stuff you can start to learn right away. I've got a beginner's playlist. Just go to the beginner's playlist. I explain everything from the very beginning so you can get started. And then I have my website, which is heymonicab.com, which you can find all kinds of information there, some of my classes and things that I offer there as well. And my blog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This is great.
Yes.
Well, you've been a big contributor to a lot of the magazines, Spiritual and Health Magazine, Thrive Global. I mean, lots of, you've just been very busy lady.
Yeah, well, I think everybody needs to know about this. Everybody has a right to have the tools to empower their own health. Everybody has a right to that. We all deserve that. And I'm not shutting up until everybody does. So I got work to do, Joy.
You do. But I have to say, you came up, hats off to your parents. Of course, Bloom is probably, is that your married name?
No, that's my name. Yeah.
I love Monica Bloom. How'd you get such a cute name?
I don't know. I got lucky.
You did. That's a great name. You couldn't make that one up. It's just too good. And it goes with your program. So what has been the most fulfilling thing that your journey is to, you've discovered Ayurveda, and what is the most fulfilling thing that you've experienced in your life? And I assume it was discovering Ayurveda, but what has that done for you to be able to bring that to so many people?
Yeah, I think it's watching people up. There was one person who summed it up perfectly, and she's like, "Oh my God, Monica, I read your book." She's my coworker at the time. I said, yeah. And she's like, "I feel like my whole life makes sense now." And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Okay. And that was a pretty fabulous moment. I'm like, wow, I helped somebody make sense of her entire life. That's amazing. But it's that spark. It's that thing. I love watching people discover Ayurveda because I relive it. I'm like, when I first discovered it, I was a sobbing, crying mess. I didn't even know it existed. I found it. And everything I read online was all about everything I believed about our mind, our body, our spirit, the universe, the ability to heal ourselves, the ability to heal from nature, how to eat according to you, da-da-da. And I cried and cried and cried and cried. And 4 days later, I enrolled myself in school. And it's that spark that sparked me. And when people come to me and they're like, "Oh my God," and they're new and they're so excited, I get it and I love it. I'm like, yeah, you're on. You just began. So much more cool stuff. And it's it's watching them connect to their authenticity. It's watching them connect to hope and faith that something is going to work for them, that something makes sense, that we see people as unique individuals. We're not just diagnosing somebody's allergies or gut problems or whatever they want to call it. It's seeing this as a human being with a mind and with a spirit and they suddenly see it for themselves, and they're like, oh, this is me. That's the most fulfilling part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We got so far out of that as we matured and grew, and our environment started to direct our lives. It's really refreshing now to see how many of us reach outside of what we've been programmed to be and say, no, it's enough. I'm not doing this anymore. I want to find out who I am, and I want to live my life, not somebody else's life.
That's right. And don't forget, remember when we started our conversation today, the reason for longevity, Ayurveda is the science of longevity, because we are here to serve, to make a difference, to live out that thing that we're supposed to do in this lifetime.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. Yes, I like that. Now, had you been exposed to somebody when you first started your journey with Ayurveda, or how did you even come in touch with it?
No, it was random because I was working on something I called Project Monica. Remember when I told you I was a hot mess and I was depressed and lonely and all the terribleness?
Yes.
So then I was like, I'm going to disappear and I'm going to go on a yoga retreat to India because I was already doing yoga, and I was like, what's more exotic than India? I'm going to go really far, and I'm going to go somewhere, disappear. And so I Googled it, and I found this retreat center with like these little huts. They were on the beach, and it said Ayurvedic massage therapies, Ayurvedic foods, Ayurvedic stuff. And I was like, what is this? Why are they all gung-ho? What's this Ayurveda thing? What is that? And I didn't even know how to say the word. I was like, whatever. It's weird. So I Googled it, and then I found, I don't know what website it was. Most of it was like in Sanskrit weirdness, and I couldn't make sense of any of it. And I found one that explained Ayurveda is the knowledge or science of life. It believes that we are unique individuals. There are not two people that are exactly the same, and therefore our diet and lifestyle needs to serve us as unique individuals we are. We believe in prevention. We believe that we are a part of nature and that nature can heal us through our food and through plants. And I was like, what? And then it was like the psychology and like the mind is all connected to the body's connected to the mind, it's all connected to the spirit, goes around in a circle. And I was like, oh. And that's when I had my freak out. I just started bawling. My ears got hot. I felt the fire rise up all the way up to my head. My ears got hot. Tears just flung out of my face. My head was down on the keyboard, sobbing. And I just sat there. I was like, why didn't I know this existed? Because at the time, I had hired an acupuncturist, a nutritionist, a life coach, an energy intuitive, and a therapist. Yeah. I had 5 people hired to help me figure out me. And when I found Ayurveda and I went to school, over time, I became all 5 of those people for myself.
Oh, that's awesome, Monica. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I was like, I got me.
You went to school. You went to school for Ayurveda?
Yeah, I went to Ayurveda school, yeah. So there was a school in Foster City, which is in the Bay Area, and they had a 1.5-year program. And so I went to school there while I was working and doing all my things, because I can't just do one thing, apparently. But I was doing all these other things, and I was going to Ayurveda school, and that's how I learned. Yeah. And then I went to India. Yeah, then I went to India for some advanced training since then. And now I'm in an advanced studies class with students from around the world, and we read the ancient texts, and it's on Wednesday mornings at 5 in the morning.
Oh, my goodness.
Our teachers are in India, so it's 7 p.m. there, and it's 5 a.m. by me, and we all keep learning. So it's lifelong learning. I'll never be done learning it. Yeah.
Well, I kind of feel like that, and I'm not innovative, but I'm always wanting to learn. I just feel there's always something more, ahead of me. So, but you did make it to India, and did you go to the retreat centers or a spa?
It kind of looked like that. It did kind of look like that, but instead of receiving the treatments, I was learning the treatments and I was practicing the treatments. And yes, there were little huts on the beach. Got a little hot on the beach. Was dark and super hot. I got to tell you, it was not luxurious. Like, it was hot. Like, we were sweating buckets. Like, we're doing massage on each other. We're sweating. I'm like, not exactly what I had in mind, but okay. I guess I did manifest the hut on the beach in India thing.
Yeah, right.
Well, but it was great. It's great.
I've looked at those retreats and I've not ever decided that was the place for me, but I know that there's a lot of growth that goes on when women do make the decision or people make that decision to go. I mean, we've all seen the movie that was, forget who did that, about going to an ashrama to learn about herself. So I want to say that it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. I mean, you've given us you've started us on a journey that I can see will benefit many of my listeners if they choose. And I'd say the easiest thing right now is buy your book and go to YouTube to find out more about Ayurveda. And you would just be so much fun to go with on this journey. Yeah. So I can definitely see, but I thank you so much for being on my show today. This has just been a real pleasure, and I thank you.
Joyce, thank you so much for the invite. It's been a joy to meet you and give you those good squeezy hugs in person, and just so much fun to be able to connect here in the space where we have a little bit more concentrated time and we can actually bring some life-changing good stuff to your listeners. Like, we all deserve that. So I hope, listeners, that you do go grab a copy of my book and begin the journey. Just begin. You don't have to know it all. You don't have to be intimidated. Just be a little bit more curious about how you can bring more life to your life, right?
Yes. So I thank you in this brief time that I had with you. I thank you for being here today. I look forward to seeing you next week. And I want you to go out there and make this an awesome day and move it on into the week. Go to the bookstore, go to YouTube, and connect with Monica Bloom. Thank you for being here today.
Joyce Buford returns next week at this same time for another edition of Second Wind. Through the Joyce Buford Empowerment System, women are receiving support during their transition and are able to reclaim their true purpose and strength. They receive the tools they need to map out new lives. You can find out more about her coaching services at